There are 45 people on the plane. Most of them are young, early 20s, loud in the particular way groups get when they think nothing bad can really happen to them. It's a rugby team from Uruguay flying to Chile for a match. Friends came with them, a few parents, a few siblings. It's not a serious trip. It's supposed to feel like a win before the game even starts. They're on a small chartered plane, old, narrow. The kind of plane where you can hear the engines working and trust them anyway, because they always have before. One of the players is Nando Parrado. He's 22, built, solid, the kind of guy who doesn't talk much and doesn't panic. When something goes wrong, people look to him without thinking about it. He's sitting with his mother. His younger sister, Susie, is nearby, pressed against the window, pointing at the mountains like they're a show put on just for her. She keeps making comments about how huge they are, how unreal they look. His mother keeps fussing over him, straightening his collar, asking if he packed everything, asking again 5 minutes later. Susie teases him for it, calls him mama's favorite, steals his armrest. Nando pretends to be annoyed. He isn't. The cabin smells like fabric and stale air. Someone behind them keeps laughing too loudly. Someone else is already talking about the match. Someone says they're going to crush the other team. Someone argues back. Outside, the Andes stretch on forever. White, sharp, massive. They look beautiful. They look far away. Late in the afternoon, the pilots believe they've cleared the mountains. They haven't. They begin to descend anyway. The shaking starts small, just enough to make people stop talking. Then it escalates. Metal scrapes rock. The plane drops. Weight disappears. People lift out of their seats for a second that doesn't make sense. Then, impact. The wings rip away. The tail tears off. Seats come loose. Luggage flies. Bodies slam into each other as the remaining fuselage hits the mountain and slides down the glacier, tearing itself apart as it goes. When it stops, the silence feels wrong. Nando wakes up freezing. That's the first thing he notices. The cold is already inside him. When he opens his eyes, everything is white, painfully white. For a moment, he thinks he's blind. Then he realizes the ceiling is gone. The plane is torn open. Snow is pouring in. Wind moves through the wreckage like there's nothing stopping it. Seats are twisted, stacked, crushed. Luggage is everywhere. People are everywhere. Some of them aren't moving. His face feels wrong, huge, swollen. When he lifts his hand, it comes away dark and sticky. He doesn't look at it long. Somewhere nearby, someone is crying in short, ugly gasps. Somewhere else, someone keeps screaming a name and not stopping. Nando tries to talk, but nothing comes out. He looks for his mother. He doesn't see her. Night drops fast in the Andes. The sun vanishes and the temperature plummets with it. The wreckage offers almost no protection. People start tearing the plane apart with no plan other than survival. Seat cushions are ripped out. Luggage is jammed into holes. Insulation is torn from the walls with bare hands. They press together in the center of the wreckage, bodies packed tight, breath turning to fog. Someone's leg is broken. Someone keeps asking the same question over and over and over. Someone finds chocolate. Someone else finds wine. They ration it carefully, already assuming this won't last long. Already assuming help is coming. Planes crash. People survive. Rescue arrives. That's how this is supposed to work. Nando doesn't wake up the next day. Or the next. His skull is fractured. His face swells until one of the guys doesn't recognize him. They cover him with a blanket and move on to the people who can still speak. On the third day, his eyes open. Light floods in, and he turns his head immediately. Susie, she's alive. Unconscious, barely breathing, but alive. Nothing else matters after that. He drags himself next to her, talks to her constantly, says her name. tells her they'll be out soon, mentions things she'd complained about before the flight, promises her helicopters are coming. At night, when the cold feels like it's cutting into bone, he curls his body around hers to block the wind. She never wakes up. Each day, her breathing gets worse. On the 8th morning, he realizes she isn't breathing at all. There's no noise, no final moment. She's just gone. Nando stays with her longer than he should, long enough that someone eventually has to tell him they need the space. When he stands up, something in him shuts off permanently. Waiting stops making sense. A few days later, someone digging in the snow finds a radio, small, transistor, almost intact. They crowd around it immediately, shoulder to shoulder, cold, starving, desperate. Someone turns it on, static. Then a calm voice, neutral, reading headlines from a world that still exists. The search for their flight has been called off. No survivors expected. The wreckage presumed lost. Unrecoverable. No one says anything. They don't need to. The last excuse to keep pretending disappears. After that, the days feel different. Not worse exactly, just true. No one scans the sky anymore. No one talks about when rescue will arrive because rescue isn't arriving. The food runs out slowly. First the chocolate, then the wine, then the scraps they'd saved thinking they'd only need them for a few more days, and then there's nothing. Hunger becomes the center of everything. Not dramatic at first, not pain yet, just a constant grinding emptiness that never goes away. People stop talking unless they need to. Movements slow down. The cold burns through them faster now. Calories they don't have. The bodies outside the wreckage don't feel temporary anymore. They don't talk about it at first. They just stop looking at certain people the same way. Eventually, someone says it, quietly. No one reacts because everyone has already thought it. The first time is the worst. Not because of what they're doing, because of who it is. A teammate, a friend, someone they joked with days ago. Hands shake, people look away, someone vomits, someone prays, someone refuses, and then comes back later when they realize there's no other option. After that, something breaks that doesn't come back. Food stops being food. People stop being people in the same way. Survival becomes mechanical, necessary, and cold. Weeks pass like that. Time loses meaning. They melt snow, lie still, save energy, breathe shallowly. They stop counting days. Then one night, the mountain moves. It starts with a sound, deep, distant at first, like thunder, but heavier. Wrong. Someone sits up. Before anyone can speak, the avalanche hits. Snow crashes through the fuselage in a wall. Tons of it, fast, unstoppable. People wake up already buried, choking, clawing at darkness that doesn't give. The weight is immediate, crushing. You can't move your arms, can't turn your head, can't breathe without snow filling your mouth. Some people scream into the snow and no one hears them. Some don't get the chance to scream at all. Nando feels the cold compress around him like concrete. He digs, pushes, twists his body until something loosens. His fingers break through the air and he drags himself up, gasping, half blind. Around him, others are doing the same, digging, calling names, pulling people out who aren't moving anymore. When the sun comes up, they count. 8 more dead, suffocated in the night. The wreckage is half buried now, unstable. The walls that kept them alive are collapsing inward. It's not a shelter anymore. It's a tomb. Nando doesn't stand up dramatically. He doesn't gather everyone. He doesn't explain himself. He waits until the talking dies down, until there's nothing left to say, and then he tells them he's leaving. Not thinking about leaving, not planning to leave. Leaving. There's no argument because there's nothing to argue against. Everyone already knows what staying looks like. Roberto Canessa steps forward almost immediately. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't ask questions. He just says he's coming too. They don't have a map, they don't have climbing equipment, they don't know which direction leads out. All they know is that forward is the only option left. They leave early, before the cold fully releases its grip on the night. The snow is hard under their feet, packed tight from the freeze. Every step feels uncertain. Their clothes are improvised, layers of fabric cut from whatever they could find. Pieces of insulation tied around their legs. Nothing fits right, nothing is made for this. At first, they climb, not down, up. The air thins almost immediately. Breathing stops being automatic. Every inhale feels incomplete. They move slowly, stopping often, not to rest, but to keep themselves from collapsing outright. Sweat freezes the moment they stop moving. When they walk again, their clothes feel heavier. By nightfall, the temperature drops fast. There's no shelter, no fuselage, no walls to block the wind. They scrape out shallow places in the snow and lie down side by side, pressed together, backs to the wind, knees pulled into their chests. Sleep comes in short, broken stretches. The days blur together, white ground, white sky, no sense of distance. Hills that take hours to climb look harmless from below and endless once you're on them. Hunger's constant now, deep and dull. Their legs shake when they stop, their hands stop working properly. At one point, they reach what looks like the highest point yet. The climb burns everything they have left. Roberto slips more than once. They barely talk. There's nothing useful to say. When Nando finally pulls himself over the top, the climb burns everything they have left. Roberto slips more than once. They barely talk. There's nothing useful to say. When Nando finally pulls himself over the top, his chest heaves so hard he thinks he might black out. He straightens. This has to be it. He scans the horizon. No valley. No road. Only mountains. Endless. He doesn't sit down. He doesn't speak. After a long moment, he turns around. Roberto is watching him. Nando nods once. They keep going. Days later, the land softens. The air thickens. They hear water, a river. Then they see a man on horseback across it. They scream until their voices rip apart. The man looks up. He sees them. He rides for help. 2 days later, helicopters arrive. The sound cuts through the mountains like something from another world. Mechanical, impossible, real. Nando watches them descend. When the first one lands, the pilot steps out and stares at the wreckage, at the survivors, at what's left of 45 people. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. They're lifted out in groups, strapped in, flown over the same mountains that almost erased them. 72 days after the crash, 16 people leave the Andes alive. Nando doesn't look back at first, but then he does. The mountains are still there, white, sharp, endless, exactly as they were, indifferent. He turns away and the helicopter rises.